I don't want to waste time, man. I want to utilize the time that God has given me to be, a light, to be productive and put out good energy, work super hard and hope that my children have more opportunity and people around me. And I mean, I know it sounds so cliche, but that's kind of what success is to me, man. Providing value for myself and to others.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I'm your host, as always, Yona Weiss. Grateful to be here today with another awesome guest. Jonathan Mitchell, sunny San Diego. What's cooking, my friend? How you doing?
Doing well, Yona. Thanks for having me on, brother. This has been about a year in the making, so we got it done. Here we are.
Here we are, finally. Grateful to have been a guest on your podcast a few moons ago. And this is, like I said, been a long time in the coming, and I'm glad to have you on the show. We have a lot in common. Like I mentioned, we just literally in the pre-call, we learned that we used to live on the same street. Not at the same time, but that's pretty wild in San Diego.
So crazy. Because when you were on my pod, you told me you grew up in LA, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I always thought you were an East Coast guy. And then you told me this morning offline that you also lived in San Diego. And I was like, I used to live right on these couple streets. And you're like, I used to live on that street too. It's crazy. Same street, man.
That's awesome. Very small world. Well, tell us how you got into the real estate world, because right now you are the founder of a company called ADU Pals, which obviously you help build ADUs and you help build small multifamily units and things like that. A lot of going on in the real estate world and development world, property management, a lot going on in your world. And I'd love to kind of learn how you got started in the whole thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I tell the story all the time, but I come from very humble beginnings, Section 8 welfare. I grew up in East County, San Diego. So, housing was always sort of a challenge for us and my family. And owning a home was like a dream as a kid, especially San Diego. I mean, the prices have skyrocketed, in the last, I would say 10, 15 years, but San Diego has never been inexpensive in my lifetime to live. So housing was always a challenge for me as a kid. And then I started a solar company. And that was about 10 years ago now. And we ended up getting an A license, a B, C10, and C39. So that's basically a general engineering license. That's for like bridges and freeways. It's like a really, really tough license to get. The B is the general contracting license, which is generally just what builders, GCs get. And the C39 is a roofing license. The C10 is electrical contracting license. So basically we had, the capacity to build homes, and we did start doing that. So when I built this company, bootstrapped it, started from the ground up. We built it up. At our height, we had 115 W-2 employees. Didn't know how to read a balance sheet when I started that company. Didn't know how to read a P&L. Didn't know what cash flow statements were. All of that stuff, right? Just learned on the fly. And yeah, we ended up with four offices. We did well. I learned a tremendous amount in that business. I learned the difference between top line and bottom line. More is not always more. When to say yes, when to say no when it comes to marketing, budget, spend, etc. But I'm telling this sort of broad stroke to zone in on how I got into real estate. So I started investing in real estate second or third year when I had the company. When I started to, create a little bit of money, I bought my first house. And then I ended up turning that house into an ADU, building a new property behind it, buying the lot next door, building a property there with an ADU. And then I just got hooked on real estate, on developing real estate as well, because I've always been sort of an operator, bottom line guy. And I like to cut out the fat wherever I can. It's just the way my brain works. So I'm like, if I can buy the dirt, control the entire process, and build something, I get to create new housing. I get to do something which I love. Architecture is amazing. Design is amazing. You take something that's not there, and you get to get with your team and create something that's going to be there. I think it's fascinating. And then if you could implement processes, you can recruit, you can build systems and a team that can actually go out and operate and build, you can make money. And you can also do something good, which is bring affordable housing to the market for other people that need places to live. Supply and demand, first rule of business. So that's the broad stroke for you, brother.
And San Diego is an amazing city. I mean, I've lived in a lot of places. Actually was born in Boston, grew up in LA, as we talked about, live in Israel now, but spent a few years in San Diego. And it was one of the places I love the most, just in terms of the climate, the environment. It's just like a lot of fun things to do, obviously. But I mean, I don't know too much about the actual infrastructure of the city, right? In terms of what does it take to, is it easy to work with the municipality in terms of building? You're doing a lot of construction, a lot of building, permitting. A lot of places, some places are easier than others to work with. I don't know if you've had experience working in other localities, but tell me what that's like.
Yeah, so I tore down a house in Santa Monica and built a new house. That was a nightmare. I'll never work. Well, it's unlikely that I'll work in LA again. Generally, the consensus is in blue states, it's more difficult and there's more red tape to build in real estate in general. I would say that San Diego is a purple, sort of bluish city in a very blue state, obviously, the state of California. But the unique thing about San Diego, and thank you for saying all those things. You lived here, Yona. People love San Diego. I'm 43, and most people have great things to say about San Diego. I love the city so much. It's like a part of who I am, and I've traveled as well. I've been in 45 countries, so I've been to Israel, been to Jerusalem, been to Tel Aviv, and I have sort of a little bit more experience when it comes to other places to compare it to. Long story short, I love San Diego, but the city is pro-development, Yona. The city wants housing. So California came out with the law that basically was like the solar law that said you cannot say no to solar. That happened when I was in solar. They came out with another law. It was 19, I think, and they came down from the state level and said one ADU and one junior ADU on every home. You basically cannot say no. We need housing. This is how we're going to solve. Then San Diego said, we like this. We are going to double down. So they created new zoning, which is imperative for developers and real estate people because it allows for a master plan for what you're able to build, what the city wants. They want retail space over here. They want commercial space over here. They want residential space over here. They want multifamily over here. That's the master plan. They basically redesigned the whole city to get more housing, to allow for more density. So instead of one or two ADUs, generally, they said you can stack these things like apartment buildings. And people don't realize. I mean, I've been talking about this for a long time. We're friends on LinkedIn, ADUs. I think people are just starting to get it, but San Diego is at the forefront of this because we are literally stacking these things 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 units, apartment buildings that are ADUs.
How is that? I mean, how does that actually work? Meaning, it's just the way that they've zoned the areas that allow for that, because that to me sounds, obviously, you said there's a push for development, there's a push for affordable housing. But to me, that sounds like that's incredible. Like, you don't get that in a lot of other places where you can actually build apartments, like kind of stack, really ADUs a stack. But I mean, it's an apartment building, right? It's like, a 6 unit or a 8 unit or something like that, right? It's a little bit of a different zoning, no?
It's incredible. So we have a base zone, and then you have what are called bonuses on top of that. So based on the base zone, you get essentially a certain amount of density, and then you get density bonuses. So basically, you can get one ADU at market rent, and you get another ADU, which is an affordable rent. So it's a give and take from the city. They want units. They want builders to build units. How do we get builders to build units, developers to build more, take more risk, essentially bring units online? We give you one at market rent, and then we give you one affordable. And so you get a 1-and-1. The cool thing about that is when people hear affordable, they think sort of Section 8, which I think Section 8 programs are amazing, but it's based on the AMI. And
Can you say just AMI for our listeners who may not be familiar with what that means?
area median income. So
Gotcha.
the area median income in an area, it's based on essentially if you take a city or a zip code, how much money the median income of that city, of the people that live there make. So it's really high in San Diego is the bottom line. Generally, you're 80,000 up to like $150,000 per city. So the affordability is deed restricted. It does reduce the rent you can charge based on the market, but oftentimes it's not as much as one might think. It's definitely not as significant as like a Section 8. So it does make the unit more affordable than a market rate, but it doesn't break the underwriting and the pro forma where it doesn't pencil for the developer. So as you stated, it's a very unique It's amazing is what it is, Yona. I mean, I can't be more excited about it. I'm all in, as you know, everyone who follows me knows. All of my equity, all of my time, all of my energy is into this thing because it's awesome. It's a developer's dream in your home city, a place you love, where the dirt is very expensive in general. Housing costs are really expensive. To have a city that says, "Hey, look, we want to provide a way for you guys to go build. This is what we're going to do. Get after it."
Makes sense. Listen, to be in such a situation where you can do that, and you're developing properties, you're helping others develop properties, right? You're seeing the affordability. I mean, the numbers have to make sense for people to do it. Developers would not develop properties if the numbers didn't make sense. And even with expenses or supplies and things like that being higher, like you said, the dirt itself is not cheap. But if you have a way to make it affordable or make it not just affordable, but profitable and at the same time affordable for the population, it's a win-win, it sounds like.
That's exactly right. So obviously, real estate 101, you got to buy right. You got to have deal flow. You got to know brokers. You got to be, going after sellers yourself. You got to be talking to wholesalers. You got to be like getting deal flow, right? You got to be looking at deals. You buy right. For me, it's controlling as much of the process as I possibly can, Yona. So if I can go directly to the seller, that's optimal. If I can get the contract in a longer escrow so I don't have to close and save some cash while I develop,
Mm-hmm.
that's better, right? But what we generally do is we'll buy a property, we will then rehab that property, right? So we'll buy a distressed property or undervalued, under market property, we'll rehab it, we'll put a tenant in to cover our float, and then we'll develop in house the back part of the property. So then if you have an SFR and maybe you want to build 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 units behind it, you can attach debt easier to an existing property or house or duplex or whatever it is comparatively just to dirt,
Right.
right? Then you get a tenant in there to cover some of your float, right? Your burn. You develop in house, right? So you can keep your costs low, and then you get new debt to build construction debt. And then from there, you can either scrape that property or build behind it, depending on how high you're going to go. And yeah, you get obviously good debt, you get good equity. You try to keep the equity as low as you possibly can. Use your own equity. We are operators. We are raising capital. We're going to raise more capital, but I generally like to use my own money if I can, and
Mm-hmm.
friends and family money. I'm not a big, massive syndicator. I know that's a huge product out there. I know it does well for a lot of people. For me in my space, it's not where we're at right now. That may change in the future. But yeah, we build and then we either sell those properties or we stabilize, lease up, and we hold in cash flow. So just to tie a bow on that thought, it's an amazing way in San Diego because the cap rates and the way that our value add market is, it doesn't really work in traditional real estate in San Diego because of just the market. So this is a way, a solve that we have found to acquire property, build new density, which creates forced appreciation and equity, and also get new debt and cash flow and get our equity out. So we have an asset cash flowing that's, has equity in it. Triple play, we call it.
Sure. What types of units are being built typically? I mean, when I think of an ADU, which is like accessory, what is it called? Accessory dwelling unit, something like that, additional dwelling
Got it.
unit.
Yep.
I typically think of, they call it like a mother-in-law unit or something like that. You have like a small house built behind your house, right? Where you have like maybe like one bedroom or a guest house type of thing. What you're doing sounds like you're actually just building additional homes on an existing property or apartments, things like that, where it may be suiting a different clientele, right? A different tenancy that is necessarily going to be found than just kind of a guest house type of thing. Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to take this opportunity to sort of address the thinking of what the ADU is. It
Right.
has always been a granny flat, a pool house, something additional for mom and dad retire into. That no longer is the case. Those still exist in a lot of the country, most of the country. That's what an ADU is. In Southern California, San Diego specifically, it has been redefined. So you could have a house or a duplex or a traditional SFR and have 10 ADUs under one roof as a 10 unit behind that house. And they're essentially, we're getting, I mean, just to give you, for instance, I have a 6,600 square foot lot we're going to put 40 units on that lot. That's not ADUs though. That's additional density in San Diego. That's under a different density bonus program called Complete Communities.
Okay.
But you can do the same thing with ADU. So again, I just want to clarify for your listeners and
Sure.
your viewers, in San Diego as a market specifically, ADUs do not mean a home with an additional dwelling unit behind an accessory dwelling unit. It could mean 5, 6, 10, 15, 30 ADUs stacked. We could tear that house down and build all ADUs. I mean, there are some really big projects out there, but generally you're looking at, let's say, 6 to 20.
Gotcha. And when you're building
And then
these,
we also, sorry, real quick, we also, for Tom and Sally Homeowner, which we offer as a service, when they just want to build one ADU, we do that for them as well. So they can do that. They can also convert what's called a JADU, which is an existing dwelling or existing garage, storage, shed. You can convert that into a dwelling unit as well. That's called a JADU, junior ADU.
Gotcha. But when you're talking about the ADUs that you've kind of redefined in San Diego, are these 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? Are they townhomes? Are they apartment buildings where you have, walk ups like 3, 4 story buildings? Give me a little picture. I mean, you can't share your screen and show me the actual breakdown of what the architecture looks like, but I just want to kind of picture it in my mind what we're talking about.
Yeah, so I'm at adupals.com, guys. I'm on Instagram at Jonathan Mitchell RE, and then obviously I'm on LinkedIn as well. If you want to reach out for more information, go ahead and hit me up. I'm happy to share. But it's a great question, Yona. Generally, it depends on sort of, what the developer is going for and the area.
Mm-hmm.
An ADU that's detached generally is going to be 1,200 square feet or less, and you can break that out however you want to break it out as far as the floor plan.
Right.
So you can go 3-2, you can go 4-2, you can go 2-2, but 1,200 square feet or less. If you're stacking them, and if it's attached, you're generally at 1,000 square feet or less. A JADU has to be 500 square feet or less. And again, you can break that out. Generally, if you're stacking them, you're going to be 500 square feet. You can have micro units at 300 square feet. You can go up to 800, 900 square feet. You're generally going to fall in San Diego,
Gotcha.
500 to 750 square feet. 1-1s, 2-1s, 2-2s is generally where you're going to fall in.
Makes sense. Okay. That gives me a
And
lot
those
better
are
of a
going
picture.
for anywhere from $4 to $6 a square foot for rents, Yona.
That's pretty good. That's not bad for San Diego. And so you're obviously making money when you're building these out.
We are in the business of making money, Yona. We like to make money, but as you said, making money, but also providing a value that's needed, doing something that we enjoy doing as well. Just personally, I love doing this. Obviously, we want to make money in our career, and then we get to provide housing for the market in a city that, I live in and love.
It's a win-win. That's how I like to call it. It is. It really is. It provides the housing that is necessary. It allows you and people like you to build, to make money, to do a good thing. And you're not getting pushback. Like you said, the city itself is encouraging this, it sounds like. So
we are getting some pushback. The city council just passed a law that essentially reduces in one zone, not reduced. Well, it does reduce. It's a new sort of ordinance that limits in hardcore residential spaces the amount of ADUs you can build, because there were some bad actors. And I'm going to be honest about that. There were some developers that saw it and just, went to the moon, 100 units in a traditionally residential area. Some people got upset. So it's been an ongoing thing.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't affected our group because we saw the writing on the wall. We have deep relationships at the city, at the housing commission, et cetera. And we just don't buy in those areas. But obviously you want to consult with someone who knows what they're doing. You want to mitigate risk wherever you can. Obviously you want to work with people that have expertise, to keep yourself out of trouble. And we are, attached to the building code. We're attached to the DSD, the mayor's office, all these places, and communicating with other developers and, people writing the code, et cetera. But yes, there is a little bit of pushback, but we're through that now. There's always going to be challenges when you're trying to do something, Yona, that. But generally, the city, the mayor's office, the DSD, the housing commission, everybody wants us to build.
That's good. That's great. I've not heard that from too many different people in different locales that I've interviewed, because you have a lot of developers who have done this all over. And it sounds like it's like you said, blue states are a little more difficult to deal with. But in general, I feel like it's difficult for people to build, for developers to build, which is one of the challenges, right? You have this supply and demand going on, and it's good to hear. And kind of refreshing to hear even though there is some pushback in certain areas, but at the same time, the fact that you're able to do it and do it well, that's amazing.
I would say that developing and building real estate in general is difficult. It's, a very small portion of society that will take that risk and do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that because you can get your lunch eaten really quickly.
Hmm.
I would also say that be careful what you wish for because, we always want more density. We want more opportunity as developers. We want to bring more online because we want to make more money and do more with the opportunity costs. You have a piece of dirt. What's the most I can do with this thing?
Right.
Thing about San Diego is you have the opportunity to build a tremendous amount on small plots of land. And so it's a great place to be, Yona, because you have the opportunity, you have essentially the blank canvas and the green light,
Hmm.
but then you can also get yourself in trouble because it's not feasible. The utility is not there. How do you stage material, utilities, all of these things that sometimes, can get you in trouble. So again, I would say consult with people who know what they're doing. I'm available for that. But hey, if you're a developer and you want to come develop in San Diego, come on out, man. I'm an abundance guy. It's a great market. We got a beautiful bay, a beautiful beach, great people, and the real estate market is pumping.
Sounds good. We had a guy on the podcast about a year or two ago, Kobe Lefkowitz. I'm not sure if you know him, but he's from New York, but he's developed in San Diego some beautiful properties, and love to
I'm
connect you guys also.
trying. Well, I think we're letting it go, but we were about to buy a property from him.
Really? Oh,
Him and
okay.
his
So you
partner.
do
Yeah, on
know.
Louisiana
There you
called the
go.
NOLA.
Nice. Small
Yep.
world.
It's a small world, brother.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned that you've traveled to 45 different countries. Now, to me, that's fascinating. How did you do that? I mean, is this something you've done since you have a family now? This is something or was it doing when you were single or young without kids?
Yeah, so I was younger. I have traveled since I've had a family. My kids have traveled as well. I love it. Yona, again, humble beginnings. I didn't get on a plane. I'd never been on an airplane until I was, I think, 17 or 18. So I had a really good buddy. Shout out Robbie Cobbs, tech my school out in Puerto Rico. But he had a roommate at USD, moved from Sweden and was studying abroad internationally in San Diego and was always just sort of hyping up other countries. And I was like, no, everyone wants to come to America. This place is great. Like, why would anyone ever go anywhere else? That was my thinking at the time. It's a long time ago. And they were like, no, you got to go see, man. You got to go see for yourself. And once I traveled, it was just like the biggest hook ever, man. It became my candy stick and seeing new things and traveling new places and new cultures and new ideas and food, landscape, different type of holidays. And yeah, man, I love traveling, and God has created such a beautiful world with so many different types of people and places to see that you just can't get enough of it once you get going. So,
Love it. What are some of the most beautiful places or experiences that you've been to?
well, I got to shout out the sunrise and sunset in Tel Aviv. It's incredible. I feel like the sun is like it's
Right there on the
so big.
Mediterranean. It's pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
man. But those the jellyfish in that water, though, man, they beat me up. I don't know what it was. They beat me up, man. Thailand is where I went for my honeymoon. It's incredible. I actually love like Fiji. I've been all over Europe. I always tell people when they ask me what's your favorite place, I say it depends on what you're looking for.
Hmm.
You don't get tropical sort of island vibes in Sweden, right? And you don't get mountain like landscapes and those beautiful clear lakes, when you're in somewhere else, Poland, right? So yeah, man, I love to travel. I think that you set out kind of what you're looking. I'm a diver now too, Yona. I'm a
Oh,
scuba diver, so I kind of try to now, book places to go where I can also dive. But yeah, man, Australia, it's cool, man. Just traveling in general is amazing. I would say if you haven't done it, you should do it. Everyone says I want to travel. I like to travel. I would say it's a lot cheaper to travel when you just plan,
hmm,
than you think.
sure.
You make a I'm gonna go on a trip next year and it'll be cheaper than maybe a couple nights out or buying a new vacuum or a new car or something like that. Like, and I always tell one more thing I'll add to that, Yona. I can never remember what I got for Christmas, but I can always remember an amazing trip.
Sure. It's the experience, right? It's having those unique interactions with people and places and things, memories. I totally relate to that. Yeah. I can't remember what I got for gifts in certain areas and things like that, but the places I've been, and I've only been to 13 different countries, but been to a lot of the states, traveled, extensively around the US as well, but I love it every time I do it. So Definitely highly
Yes,
recommend.
sir.
Awesome. Well,
Cool.
John, I'd love to transition what we like to call now the final four. These are four questions I ask all my guests. First one for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
I got to go with Starbucks, man. It was brutal. Starbucks was brutal. And I've had some hardcore jobs, Jonah. I've been a laborer in a concrete, picking it up. Like I've dug ditches, man. I've served tables. I've done construction in Sweden in the freezing cold winter. I've done a lot of jobs, but I would say Starbucks was probably the worst job. It was, I mean, they work you super hard at Starbucks, brother, and your break is like 10 minutes to the second, and you're back on the clock. And it's, I don't know, man. I'm like a commission based guy. I need an incentive, right? I'm gonna make the same amount of money. It just like something in me dies. I'm like, what am I doing here? So yeah, I would say Starbucks.
Yeah, well, it doesn't sound too fun. I imagine that was a few years ago since
And people are so angry until they get their coffee. You know what I mean? Like they're just, oh, they got to get to work. They're
right,
unhappy. Like
right.
you got to smile the whole time, and it's yeah.
I mean, it's cliche like how people act and are before they have their coffee. It's just like you're on the receiving end of it.
It's often true.
Okay, next question. What's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
So obviously the Bible, I grew up in a Christian home. It's a lot of how I base my life. And so I'm not going to say the Bible though. For the sake of this podcast, I'm going to say Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Hmm,
It's actually a book that my pastor recommended to me, and it completely changed my life. I think everyone should read it. It's kind of like Rich Dad Poor Dad to me. It's sort of like a staple of just business and
yeah,
life and real estate. It's a tremendous, tremendous read. It's very dense, so, audio would work as well. But Seven Habits of Highly Effective People is a very, very powerful read.
absolutely. And it was actually one of the first business books that I ever read, and I just fell in love with it. I've read it several times since. It's just awesome, awesome book. Highly recommend it also. Third question, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So it's what I'm working on right now. It's Facebook and Google ads.
Interesting.
So how to run them myself. Because I think marketing obviously is a huge part of business. I think marketing guys are way overpaid. Sorry, guys, I do. And it's because they have information that's sort of hard to figure out in certain ways, and click funnels, and how to put all that together. And I just am like, I'm gonna take the time to learn this. Even if I don't actually am not the one that's setting all this up, I'm not gonna be levered by certain marketing teams because they know information that I
Mhm.
don't, which I've allowed to happen. And it's probably cost me a tremendous amount of money because people are not going to do it as well as you're going to do it for your business, Jonah. They're not going to take as much time. They're not going to invest as much. They don't care as much. No matter what they tell you, yeah, they may perform, but if you could do it, you would know, hey, this is what the expectation is. I can hold these people accountable even if I offload it. Or you could hire VAs and create your own team and sort of bring it in house. So that's what I'm working on now. It's a skill that I'm going to master.
Very good. And what are you using that for? I mean, is it just to drive leads to your website, to the actual for tenants, to find properties? What is it?
All of
Who
it.
you're
So
targeting?
raising
Everything.
capital,
Raising-
raising capital, right? Finding investors, right? Finding clients, finding subcontractors when we want to fill up our bullpen. As you said, tenants. We have properties that are listed, right? We have vacancies. You can turn on the funnels for anything
Right.
when you know that skill.
That makes sense. It is a powerful skill, and those are things that are just getting more and more powerful as people are just becoming more and more digitized. And I imagine there's some AI tools and things like that that are being built to help navigate that. I'd be curious to see what that leads to. So yeah, keep me posted. Very,
Yes,
very
sir.
cool.
Will do.
Finally, what does success mean to you?
It's a tremendous question. I think there's a lot of ways you can answer. It's nuanced, but I would say that, I want to be able to look back at my life and be proud of the time that I spent. I don't want to have wasted time. Obviously, breaking the cycle for my children,
Hmm.
creating new opportunities for them, pleasing God is a huge thing, success. So all of that, I just winning, right? And, winning is so sort of broad, but I don't want to waste time, man. I want to utilize the time that God has given me to be, a light, to be productive and put out good energy, work super hard, and hope that my children have more opportunity and people around me, and I mean, I know it sounds so cliche, but that's kind of what success is to me, man. Providing value for myself and to others.
Listen, it means different things to different people. At different times in your life, the definition changes also. And so right now that makes the most sense, right? Provide that value to yourself, to your family, to those around you, and live the best life, capitalizing on every moment. Love that. That's what it's all about. So appreciate you. You mentioned earlier on the show, how people can find you or reach out to you, but I'd love for you to just sum that up again for our listeners who may want to find you or learn more about what you're doing.
Yeah, jumped in there with the plug early. Thanks, Jonah. But Jonathan Mitchell RE on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, Jonathan Mitchell, and then I'm on LinkedIn, Jonathan Mitchell. You can find me at adupals.com as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put all that in the show notes for our listeners. I appreciate you joining me. I learned a ton about ADUs and about how the definition has changed in San Diego specifically and around different places. So I appreciate you coming on the show, providing a lot of value. And thanks again. It's really been fun.
Jonah Weiss, thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah. And to our listeners, you guys are awesome for joining us and listening all the way to the end once again. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Jonah Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.